everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Construction CPA's Coffee Cafe. I am the Construction CPA, Lisa Raish. We are dropping the hammer on cash flow problems so you can build things that matter. So this week is the fifth week in a cash flow series. So we're going to be talking about change orders today. So we're going to talk about streamlining your change orders so you can get your cash faster. Because in this business, cash is king and we want you to have it as quickly as possible. So, one of the biggest reason that contractors or construction companies, trades, businesses, they wait so long for their cash is in many cases because of change orders. So you have your original contract, but there'll be things that come up in the contract that you need to be revisions. You do the extra work. The revisions pile up from an invoicing standpoint, or something gets delayed, or, sometimes you actually get to the end of the project and you realize you haven't actually billed for those change orders. So that's a huge cash flow hit for you. That's expenses that have most likely gone out the door in the interim to your subs, to your team members who are actually doing the work, your materials, things like that. And now, you have an invoice for it, and we're going to kind of scramble to invoice for it at the end of a project, right? And now we're still going to wait for our cash to come in. So we're going a long period of time where that stretch between the expenses going out and the cash coming in is now getting wider and wider. So that's what we want to talk about, is kind of making that stretch between the two a little bit smaller, so it's not so jarring. The ups and downs of your cash flow aren't so jarring. So today we're going to walk away, you're going to walk away with 3 or 4 things, 3 or 4 tips for you to simplify your cash flow, speed up your change orders, and we just want to see you get paid faster. So kind of why does this matter? And again, we've talked about this before. This won't be the first time we've talked about change orders on here, but it's super common in construction. So you're almost never going to have a project that doesn't have change orders. But when you don't manage those change orders well, they're poorly managed by your team. It causes not only delays in the billing, but also delays in the ultimate cash collection, right? So again, unapproved change orders or late change orders, equate to work just being done without being paid for it. So again, we've talked about that gap between the expenses being paid and when you collect your cash. We just want to minimize the gap between. You're always going to have a gap. We just want to keep it as small as possible, right? So again, a slow change order process is just going to be more slow cash flow. That's it. Very, very simple. So what are some of the things that you can do, right? What are some of the tips that you can do to actually speed up your change orders, speed up your cash flow, and actually things that you could do today or tomorrow in your business? So the first is you need to standardize the change order process. So it should not be a one-off, bespoke type of thing where it changes every time. So use, a consistent form or a template for every single one. Use a simple form that you're going to be able to use that references everything that you're going to need to have on it. Too often we do these types of things as a one-off, right? We don't create process around it. So create a process around those change orders, right? Make sure you're going to include the scope, right? What exactly are you doing? The cost of it. You want to have sections for approvals, right? Your approval on your team side, the client's approval, right? You want to ensure that you have all of those signatures. You want that blessing for the client, from the client on that project or on that change order, so that there isn't a challenge down the road when you go to invoice for those change orders. There's no questions. Again, this goes back to communication between not only you and your team members, but you and your customer, to ensure everybody knows kind of who's on first, who's doing what on each side, and there's no confusion. There's no arguments at the end where you have a change order that maybe someone feels like they didn't approve. You now have your document, your scope, your costs, and your signatures all on there. And that's your documentation to support that adjustment, right? So what is your takeaway on this? You need to standardize this process. It reduces the errors. It will speed up your approval process as well. And internally in your business, everyone's going to know exactly what the process is because it is the same every time. And that's where, once you have that consistency internally in your business, you will minimize the hiccups on that side. And then again, now you have a standard process for communicating with clients as well. Again, it's all about process and standardization. We don't want to be doing bespoke one-off things. We want to be doing the same type of thing over and over again, creating that consistency in your brand. So number two, you're going to want to get your approvals in real time, right? You don't want to wait down the road to get an approval. Don't wait till the project closes out to get approvals on the change orders that you've already, in most cases, already done, right? So you need to train your crew, your project managers, whoever your laborers are on site. They need to submit the change orders immediately, so that they go to your finance people so they can keep track of them there. But you also need to make sure that you submit them to also your customers so you can get signatures on them, right? So there is a change order. There's been a change order request. All of that goes through the proper chain, the proper process internally. And now you've sent over that change order approval to the customer to get their signature on it, right? So it's a quick process. Again, consistent standardization. Everyone does it the same way every time. So there's no questions about what or when people need to do things, right? So the faster the approval, the faster you're going to get billed. That's just the reality, right? You've gotten your approval, you do the work, you send the invoice out. Again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to make the space in between the dollars going out and the dollars coming in. We just want to make this space smaller. There is always, in construction, there's going to always be this gap. We just want to keep it as small as possible, right? So what else can you do? Tip number 3, bill your change orders immediately. Do not wait until the end of the project, right? You get to the end of the project and now you're giving your customer 4, 5, 6 change orders that have happened over the length of the project. Now you're waiting to get paid, right? Let's get those change orders out to them immediately as soon as the work has been done, right? As soon as it's been approved, right? Invoice it right away. The work is going to get done right away. Don't wait until the end of a billing cycle or don't wait until the end of a project. That is just going to equate you waiting longer to get paid, right? So what's your takeaway? Just immediately bill those change orders, right? Quick invoicing is going to mean you're going to get the cash quicker, right? Now, that doesn't mean you're still not going to wait maybe 30 or 60 days sometimes, which unfortunately is what happens in construction. But again, if that 30 or 60 days is not at the end of a billing cycle or after the end of a project, it's actually in the middle of the project, it's going to keep your cash flow moving. It's going to keep your cash flow slowly moving through the process so that you're not, again, heavy cash here, no cash, heavy cash. We just want to kind of streamline it and we want to spread that cash out and we want to make that gap of waiting smaller. Tip number 4, use technology with your change orders to track it. It's going to be just like anything else. You want to track the change orders just like you would track any other part of your process. So most of you are using some type of internal project management system. So your change orders are going to be included in that system, right? So make sure that you're utilizing the change orders, in your project management system. Integrate the whole thing. It should be integrated, but if you have not, make sure it all lives internally in there because you want to track the costs associated with those changes, just like you would the rest of the project. And you want it to move through the rest of your process so that the work gets completed, the expenses get paid, the invoices are submitted, right? All of that process doesn't change. Nothing changes from whether it's a change order or the original contract. All of it is consistent and there's no difference between one or the other. It's all a consistent part of your process, right? And keep your documentation, keep all of your documentation, right? So again, let's go back to the scope document we just talked about, which your scope, your costs, your approvals, right? You have all of that. You keep that and that's transparent. For many of you, you're using project management systems. A lot of them have nice client-facing portals now. So your change orders are going to live in that portal, just like your original contract and all of your other documentation related to it is going to be. So the client can see that. So there's transparency between you and the client. These are all the documents that we have for our contract. You each can see them. It's visible, right? So your takeaway is visibility. You want everybody to be able to see what's going on. So that prevents that prevents any losses on your part on down the road. Again, it minimizes the forgetting to actually invoice for those change orders, which again is more money in your pocket. And again, it helps you to create consistency, not only internally in your own business, but a consistent and smooth process with your customer so that they see and they feel that smooth, consistent, and transparent process. So if you're working with a GC, they see that there may be an opportunity to work with them again. Again, now you're building a good, solid relationship with them. If this is more of a homeowner type of process, again, your homeowner client, if they have a smooth, comfortable process with you, will be more apt to refer you to a friend or a colleague down the road. So again, it's not only the actual physical work you're doing on these projects, it's how you interact with these customers. It's how your team interacts with them. That's all part of you not only creating a solid brand, but having the experience that you want your customers to have, where they do want to either come back and work with you again or refer you out because you did a wonderful job and they want everyone to know. So it's that visibility, it's that clarity, it's that transparency that you want to make sure that you are leaning on through the whole process. So you don't want your change order process to fall off and it's not consistent with the regular part of your contracting and fulfilling the balance of the project. You want your change orders to be no different than anything else that you're going to do in this project. It's all one smooth transitional process. So what are you going to do today, right? What are the couple of things that you can do? So change orders don't have to be a nightmare. I think sometimes there is an assumption in the business that it's always going to be a process. It's always going to be make it an encumbered process, but it doesn't have to be, right? If you have the right process, if that process is consistent with the rest of your process, then you will actually not only strengthen your brand, but you'll strengthen your cash position because you are maintaining your cash consistency throughout the project. Again, we're just looking to help you minimize kind of these big ebbs and flows, but also the stretch between waiting expenses being paid and waiting for your cash to come in. So if you want, please drop a comment in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. I like to ask this one pretty regularly, but how long, for those of you out there who have had change orders, how long is the longest that you've ever waited? I'd be curious. I'd be curious to hear about any stories, maybe any horror stories. It's usually what they are. When we hear from people, it's usually a horror story. So drop some of your stories in the chat. We would absolutely love to hear from you. So next week, it'll be week 6. So next week, it'll be week 6 in our cash flow series. And we will be talking about cutting your costs, right? But we don't want you to cut corners because those are the things that if we cut too many costs down the road, it cuts down the quality of your projects and it will ultimately affect your brand. So let's talk about next week ways that we can cut expenses for you, but not without cutting corners. As always, it is a pleasure to see you here every week. We look forward to seeing you here. Follow us here on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We are at The Construction CPA on all of them. I look forward to seeing you here every week and have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.